Okay, so I am back. 2 videos, same day. Why is that? Because I was smoking the Don Carlos Eye of the Shark, and it had mellowed out quite a bit, and I was genuinely enjoying it. And then all of a sudden, one of the things that really pisses me off, and usually doesn't happen with Fuentes, or rather I should say, it usually doesn't happen with the higher end Fuentes. I went to take the band off, and whoever rolled the cigar put 10 tons of pectin on it, and basically the entire wrapper came off. So effectively what happened was the cigar was ruined and I couldn't finish it. I was really enjoying it. I have plenty more, but I figured, you know what, rather than light up another one, I decided to shift gears just a bite. Right now I have the Don Carlos, the Reserva edition 2014 blend, right? I don't know if you guys can see that or not. And this one's been in my humidor for a little while. I figure, you know what, let me go for this guy instead. So technically these aren't Opus X's, but if you look at the back, there's the let me see if I can get it in focus. See, there's that sort of, it's in black, and there's that. Let me see here if I can zoom. There we go. There's the X with the Fuente in the middle, right? But anywho, let's take a run at this guy. Let's see if I can get myself back into focus now. Boom. There's my beautiful face. I'm shooting these on my cell phone, so I have a little bit more time now, but I don't want to make the videos too long. So I'm not going to go far past the very beginning, maybe get into the second, third, but starting out, in comparison to the Eye of the Shark, this one is a lot smoother. There's a lot less of that pepper at the beginning. And, the first few puffs, obviously, you just lit it. There's that tendency to get that sort of strong flavor because of the heat on the tobacco, but let's see. Producing a lot of smoke. The draw is, I don't want to say loose. It's definitely not tight, but it's just right. And I have to say, so far so good. So I'm probably going to post up a bunch of my older videos, right? Not all of them, but some of them. And basically, I always was able to get a lot of really good smoke out of a cigar, and a couple times I had gotten questions of how I was that I managed to pull that off. And it's, first off, you got to realize that there are countless factors out of your control. Number one, how well was the cigar rolled? Okay, that's going to be a huge determining factor, and whether or not you even get smoke out of it. When you're talking about these like higher ends, it's not a problem for the most part. I mean, let's be realistic here. Even the best of the best have bad days, or one cigar comes out, whatever. The second factor, and again, out of your control, is how the cigar was cared for up until the time that it came to you. Was it properly humidified? Did it dry out? Did it leave swollen, etc., etc.? From the moment that the cigar comes to you, though, what I will say is your humidity is what's going to determine how well the cigar burns. Okay? And it was a lesson that I didn't fully understand. I mean, it seems like a basic concept, right? Cigars can't be too dry and they can't be too wet. You put them in a humidor, you put a Bovita or Bovita, however you want to pronounce it, in there, and everything's great. That is not entirely correct, because what I think you miss as a noob is that different cigars from different tobacco leaves and different environments have a tendency to appreciate different levels of humidity, and it's a small range. Okay, you don't want your cigars to sit around in 50% relative humidity because they're going to dry out. You don't want them to sit around in 80% relative humidity because they're going to get moldy and the leaves are going to swell and you're not going to be able to get good smoke out of it. But Cubans have a tendency to live a little better in a slightly lower relative humidity. You might use, the sort of Boveda 65. That's sort of specifically geared towards Cubans. For the most part, you want to keep it around 70, give or take, for the rest. Guys like me, I have a tendency to like them a little bit more. I used to use the 72s because I was always using cheaper humidors. The humidor that I have now, it's a little more expensive. It holds the humidity better, and I got to tell you, Boveda 69s keeps it right at 70, doesn't move, and my cigars are healthy. I mean, they produce great smoke, and so when I smoke, they smoke. It's also one of those things that is going to determine how well they stay lit, right? If it's too dry, it's going to burn quick like kindling, and if it's too wet, it's going to keep going out. I mean, obviously, timing when you puff, not going too long, and it won't go out, but I try as best as humanly possible to minimize relights, because every single time you put fire to it, you're losing a couple of puffs. If you have to do it 5 times, you're losing 10 to 15 good puffs, because it gets that bitter taste when you put the heat to the tobacco. So going back to the Eye of the Shark that I was smoking before, I showed that the burn wasn't super razor sharp, and typically they'll start to clean themselves up, especially the higher end cigars. When you first light them, they have a tendency to be slightly uneven, and then they'll sort of straighten out. That one did not. Actually, there were quite a few instances where I had to touch it up because the wrapper was just burning atrociously, which, against out of character. I mean, I smoke a lot of Opus X, and I don't typically have problems with it. This one had a tendency to sort of, canoe a lot, and I had to touch it up a couple times. This one, if you notice, is kind of, and we'll see if it straightens out a little bit, but it's not burning razor sharp. Now, I will say this is not a peg at the company, and I'll tell you why. One, because I've had countless good experiences, far outweighing any bad experiences. And typically the experiences where the cigar doesn't perform well, it's with the lower end Fuentes, the 858s. You're paying $8 a cigar. They're good. They're great entry level smokes. They're great go-tos. I find more often than not that those are the ones that will burn unevenly, or there'll be knots and it'll be tough to get a draw. But again, even then, it's few and far between. The reason why I say that this doesn't really reflect entirely on the company is because these cigars have been sitting in my humidor for a very long time. And there's nothing wrong with resting cigars, especially if you like them to sort of mellow out a little bit. If you're a guy like me and you're not really a huge fan of the ultra strong cigars, they can mellow out a little bit, but depending on how long you keep them in there, they sort of can go past this best by date, whatever that may be, and it could potentially be what's affecting the burn. I don't know. So this is incredibly smooth. So as I'm getting into this now, I will say that there's a very short finish. There's almost no pepper. It's very, very, very smooth. I don't want to say mellow because there's a lot of flavor to it, but smooth for sure. There's a hint of that woodiness. You get the cedar flavor for sure, and it seems like a little leathery to me, which I like that. That's, you know, one of those kind of flavors that I like. Yeah, you know, sort of like that woodiness, that kind of earthiness, and I like that. You know, some hints of leather. I am gonna probably end up touching it up a bit because, if you can see, it's canoeing quite a bit, and I don't want that to get out of control. So we'll touch it up just a bite. But overall, I'm enjoying this cigar. So I don't want to make these videos too long. I remember when I had my old channel, people would watch on average a minute to a minute and a half, and especially because of YouTube's algorithms now, that bumps you pretty far down in terms of getting viewers. But I will say, so far I'm enjoying this. It's got that same, it mellowed out very much the way the Eye of the Shark did. I'm probably going to smoke another Eye of the Shark tomorrow, because I really was disappointed that I had to cut my experience short. But I will say that all in all, so far this seems like a really good cigar. I have another couple, but from different years, and I'll say if you can get your hands on one, it definitely seems like a really good cigar. I know I'm not going into the second, third, or anything, and sometimes flavors transition, but we don't need a 20-something minute video. The reality of the situation is all cigar experiences are unique, because again, you never know the condition of the cigar. All cigar experiences are individual, because how I see and feel something is not going to be the same way that you do. I do recommend that you try it, form an opinion for yourself, and anyways, I'm going to finish this up, and I am going to get to work. Have a good one.